Hey guys, it's Quick Turtle here, and in this video, I'm going to be doing an overview of the update 1.3, which is otherwise known as Praxis Returns update for Ember Knights. Now, let's just jump right into this. So, first things first, the table of contents. I'll do a quick overview of what I'll be going through. So, first thing is the new weapon, the Void Mantle. Then Praxis Curses, then the new run modifier, Tyrant, which is probably a pretty impactful modifier. Reworked final boss fight for a Doom mode, 42 new achievements, basically double the amount of achievements that were in the game, which is just ridiculous. Weapon mod balancing, and then there's some other things that I'll talk about at the end. Yes, I know that this video is really late, but it is what it is. Now, starting with the Void Mantle, once again, the Void Mantle is a orb caster / spellcaster. Is the only weapon that has a weapon-specific ability, which is they can cast dark spells. There's 3 different dark spells you can cast, depending on mods, obviously. Now, the spells scale with skill damage, which is very nice, and then your attacks scale with normal damage. It's a very slow weapon, but generally has high damage, and you unlock it by beating Praxis. Now, moving on to the actual overview of the weapon. So the weapon starts with 60 max health, 13 damage, 100% skill damage, 0% crit, which that is crazy. It's the only weapon that starts at 0%. And then its move speed is at 95%. Now, there are chain attacks. Your third chain attack does do way more damage than your first and second. Not 100% sure on the actual percentages of damage, but it is definitely more. And then the charge attack is like a little AoE around you that does 30 damage. And if you use all 5, like if you charge all 5 orbs around you, then you cast your dark spell. Also, you gain an orb every 1 second. And with a max of 5, once again. Other dark spells that damage enemies when you spend 5 orbs, cast dark spell. So the weapon mods are quite cool. The top row is pretty crazy. This is just like a general picture of it. Now the top row, orb burst, really good damage per second, aka DPS. Your third attack shoots 2 additional orbs, which each orb does 16 damage at the base, like default damage, which is ridiculous once again. Orb Weaver, amazing for long range encounters, and you also don't need to aim since it makes your chain attacks have seeking. Laser Focus is very underwhelming. Unless you want slightly more range with your charge attack, it's really not worth it, like at all. It basically makes your charge attack into a laser beam, like Soul Siphon, if you know that skill. But it's just super underwhelming and not worth it. Onto the middle row. So this is the dark spell row, or weapon mod row. And there's 3 different spells. There's Dark Star, there's Celestial Tear, and Darkening. Dark Star is very situationally good, I guess. It's very underwhelming. It creates a little black hole and then casts a meteor. But it's only 1 meteor, so it's not like that much damage. It does scale, once again, with skill damage, and does 30 damage on the meteor. It does stun enemies when it pulls them into the middle, but it's just not very good. Celestial Tear is pretty balanced, actually. So basically what it does is it instantly kills a non-boss enemy. Now, non-boss enemies are any enemies that aren't champions, mini-bosses, or bosses. So it could be better if it does work against champions. I would definitely say it's pretty damn good, but right now it's definitely balanced. Moving on to the last one and the most broken one out of all of them. It is pretty much just ridiculously broken. The damage on it is ridiculous. What it does is it summons 2 lightning bolts that damage enemies, and you're like, 2 lightning bolts, that's fine, right? But the damage is just off the charts. It does 30 skill damage as lightning damage. So what I mean by that is it scales with skill damage and lightning damage, or instead of dealing that 30 damage scaled by skill damage and lightning damage, it will deal 10% of the target's max HP as damage. Per bolt, that is. So that's 20% of the target's max HP. And that does work on bosses. Like, that is crazy. And it obviously chooses whichever is higher. So if you're doing more damage by just scaling the 30 base damage of it, it'll take that damage number, or it'll just do the 10% max HP the enemy, which is, once again, broken. Obviously, the best dark spell is Darkening. Moving on to the last row of mods is the bottom row, which is kind of in a weird spot. It's basically all the decoy or the dark clone mods, and it's not kind of underwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. The first one is Ghostly Image. Whenever you dodge, summon a dark clone to attack nearby enemies. They do 4 attacks, and it deals the player's physical damage, which is your blue damage, which just 4 attacks, yeah, it makes sense. It is a little bit more damage, but it's just not that great. Phantom Pulse is another one that is pretty weak. It does 3 attacks. It has a decent AoE size, but it deals the player's physical damage once again. So it's less damage than Ghostly Image, but it does have, obviously, an AoE. Now, Grim Duality, that's a good one. That's probably the best one, and it's pretty balanced. Whenever you dodge, summon a dark clone. When defeated, cast a dark spell. So when the clone dies, it casts a dark spell. It is a random dark spell, and you can't aim where the spell gets cast. That's another thing that I hate about the dark spells, is you can't, like, aim them. But this is definitely the best one, Grim Duality. Now, the last one, which is the Ultimate mod, it's super balanced and fun. It keeps the game very exciting because there's always that little bit of a gamble that you can use with it. So what Void Field does is your dark spells have a 5% chance to instantly kill all non-boss enemies. So once again, non-boss enemies are all enemies that are not champions, mini-bosses, and bosses. It's very fun when you do hit it, and it's exciting. And honestly, I think it's the best part about the weapon. I love just being able to insta-kill in a room. Obviously, you have a 1 in 20 chance or 5% chance of it proccing, but that is high enough that you see it more often than not. Now, moving on to the curses. The curses are one of the major things they added in this update. It makes the game very fun and puts a little extra edge to it. So there are 8 curses, and starting with how they work. So when you enter Whitesbury, Praxis will tempt you with a curse. If you choose to take one, you will immediately be equipped with both the negative and positive effects. Once you beat Whitesbury, the curse will be cleansed, and you'll keep the boon for the rest of your run. So, starting with the first curse, which is Bane of Fortification. You can no longer dodge, but then your chain attacks destroy projectiles. And as we were explaining earlier, which is how the curses work, you'll be given the Bane, which gives you both the positive and negative, but when you beat Whitesbury, it will be cleansed into the boon, which is then going to be only the positive effect. Now, moving on. Bane of Leeching. This one's really good if you don't have any healing. It gives you a lot of healing. Bane of Leeching. You can no longer heal from items or healing fountains, but defeating an enemy heals you for 1 HP. This is extremely good in like endless runs because it gives you a lot of healing. And it scales with Juicy Opal. So if you have level 3 Juicy Opal and Boon of Leeching, you can heal 4 health off of killing 1 enemy, which is just crazy. Bane of the Whites. All rooms are white rooms. I really dislike this one. Even when the benefit doesn't really work that well, in my opinion, which is when you dodge an attack, haunt a random enemy. And I'll go to the next slide, which explains the haunted effect. Haunted enemies summon ghosts when hit with weapon attacks. And this is not that good at all, in my opinion. Because generally speaking, you're just going to 1 or 2 hit an enemy to kill it. And it's not very worth it at all. Especially when the Whites room is just so damaging. So I do not like this curse at all. Bane of the Whites is not a good one in my opinion. Now moving on to Bane of the Deal. This one is such a gamble. I don't know how, but this one is so unbalanced and just is not worth it. So what it does is it randomly replaces your relics and skills, repeats after defeating a boss or mini boss, so you randomize your entire inventory 3 times without being able to get back to your original inventory. So you just screw up your entire build. And the benefit is whenever you gain a relic, upgrade it if possible. Like, that's not even good. Like, obviously, if you take this on your first loop and you know you're looping, sure, it's good, but you lose out on a lot of scaling capabilities. So, I don't know. I really don't like it. It's just too much of a gamble. Bane of Shrouding. Except around you, darkness engulfs each room. Boon of Shrouding, you have a 20% chance to ignore damage. Now, this one is quite good. The darkness isn't as bad as you can imagine. If you turn up your brightness on your monitor, you can see your screen a lot better, and obviously it's not too hindering, but the benefit is absolutely really good. It would just have a flat 1 in 5 chance of ignoring damage, which is once again crazy. Bane of Mortality. This one is really good. Whenever you take damage, you lose that much max HP. Now, you might think that is crazy, right? That is ridiculous. Whenever you take damage, you lose that much max HP. That's crazy, right? But just don't get hit. That's literally my only explanation. If you don't get hit, you'd start scaling health like crazy. Because the benefit is whenever you defeat a boss / mini boss, gain 25 max HP, which is ridiculous. You can scale really hard when you're just doing a bunch of loops with it. Amazing. I definitely think this is one of the best. Now moving on to the absolute best. Regardless of what weapon you're using, this one is the best. Bane of Wisdom. Your second skill slot is locked. So the only downside to this is you are only going to be able to use one skill unless you're using the run modifier sealed where you already have a skill slot locked. Then it will lock your first skill slot, which is bad, but it's fine because just don't take it if you're running sealed. And the benefit is your first skill slot gains 2 additional skill charges, which is once again ridiculous, especially if you are going any sort of skill build. This is insane. You just need those 2 bonus charges, and it's not that big of a hindrance to have your second skill slot locked. Onto, I think this is the last curse, which is Bane of Agility. Your move speed is reduced by half, so basically cut in half, and then the benefit is you can quickly dodge twice. This one is kind of a gamble depending on which weapon you're using and how much move speed you have at the time. If you have 200% move speed and then you take this, obviously that's not really a hindrance because you're still at base move speed. But if you're only at base move speed and you take this, then you're going to be at 50% move speed, and that is terrible. I do not think you should ever take it if you don't have more move speed than 200%. Although maybe you can argue that quickly being able to dodge twice is kind of good. I don't know, it's kind of a balanced one, and I don't see it being stupid strong by any means. Now moving on to the new difficulty modifier, Tyrant. So there's 5 levels to it. There's the Suppression Obelisk, Celestial Impact, Plasma Barrage, Void Vortex, and Dark Matter Beam. So starting with the Suppression Obelisk, this Suppression Obelisk locks both skill slots. Destroy the obelisk to unlock your skill slots. So you can see in this little GIF here that it locks both my skill slots, and Praxis does put it in, so it is a Praxis influenced thing. Another tip is if you leave it till the very last thing in the room, you will have to destroy it before moving on. You can't just ignore it. Now moving on to Celestial Impact, this is just where Praxis rains down deadly meteors, which isn't that bad, generally speaking. Most rooms allow you to be able to dodge them quite easily. Plasma Barrage. This one is quite annoying. It's just like one of the modifiers or room modifiers in Area 5. Praxis Claws appear and fire orbs at you. These orbs cannot go Super Saiyan or whatever you want to call it, where they just start shooting them really fast. Or at least I've never seen that happen. So It's not that bad. Moving on to Void Vortex. This is one of the most annoying ones on the list. So Praxis just spawns in 2 black holes and they pull you in and deal damage. But it's not even the fact that they pull you in and like you have to be in the middle that deals damage. Just by touching it, you take damage, which is just dumb in my opinion. And this can be really bad in certain rooms where it just locks off certain areas. Or if you have a bunch of ranged enemies literally just sitting in the black hole and you're using a melee weapon, that's another terrible situation that you might be put in. Overall, the Void Vortex is quite annoying. Moving on to Dark Matter Beam. This is the last level of Tyrant, and I totally understand why. This is really hard to dodge the majority of the time, and it's just a laser beam across, so the only way you can dodge it is by going vertical or going up and down. Plus, you still have to worry about enemies in the room, which is just, once again, puts you at such a disadvantage, and genuinely speaking, this is where I take damage if I'm using this modifier. Now moving on to the reworked final boss fight. This is once again only on Doom mode. So in order to get to this new boss fight, you'll have to be playing on Doom mode, which is 15 difficulty orbs, or filling the orbs at the top of your difficulty modifiers. Now, there's 3 total phases. There's the original phase, which is phase 1. Then there's a new phase. And then there's also the new actual fight. So the first phase, there's no major changes. It's basically the exact same as it was before. I think the only thing they did is maybe increase the speed on some of the attacks, but I'm not 100% sure. And then the second phase is a new phase, which is the dodge phase. Basically, you just dodge all of the attacks, all of the lasers. I believe there's 3 guaranteed lasers that will hit you. Overall, you can't hit Praxis here, and this is strictly dodge phase, just survive, just a bullet hell. Moving on to the last phase. This phase is very similar to the first phase, but Praxis does things faster, and also he likes to stand still a lot more, I've realized. So if you have high damage, or have a high damage build, you can just deal a ton of damage. Honestly, it's not that difficult if you have a cracked out build, that is. If you are running like demons or something, yeah, this fight is ridiculously hard. Moving on to the new achievements. There's 42 new achievements. There's 6 per weapon, and there's 7 weapons, so that's 42. Starting with Emberblade. This is also what the podium looks like when you perfect it, by the way. And these are all of the icons. These are all the Steam achievements for the Emberblade. The 7 new ones, or 6 new ones, sorry. The Emberblade, once again, there's trials now, and there's 5 trials per weapon, and then there's a 6th achievement, which is just complete all the Emberblade challenges. So the first one is unlock all weapon mods for the Emberblade. Pretty straightforward. The next one is the Untouchable Challenge. Complete a world without taking damage with the Emberblade. Then there's the Radiant Blade Challenge, which all weapons have a Radiant Challenge, where you need to complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Emberblade. Then there's the Master Challenge. Complete a run without reviving with the Emberblade. Pretty easy if you just use the Guardian Angel, because it counts as a Death Defiance, not a revive. Then there's the Umbral Emberblade Challenge. Defeat 1,000 enemies with the Emberblade. Basically, just play enough and you'll get this one done. Emberblade Mastery. This is the one where you complete all Emberblade challenges and it just gives it to you. Really nice. And moving on to Guardian Bow. Guardian Bow's Amplified Challenge is unlock all weapon mods for the Guardian Bow. Then they have the Bullseye Challenge. Damage enemies with 50 perfect charge attacks in a row with the Guardian Bow. Radiant Guardian Bow Challenge. Complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Guardian Bow. Swift Challenge. Complete a run gathering 4 of Eevee's care packages with the Guardian Bow. Then there's the Umbral Guardian Bow Challenge. Defeat 1,000 enemies with the Guardian Bow. Once again, just play enough and you will definitely get this done. Then there's Guardian Bow Mastery, which is just completing all the Guardian Bow challenges. Once again, these are all of the Steam achievements. The Nexal Staff. The Amplified Nexal Staff Challenge. Unlock all weapon mods for the Nexal Staff. Then there's the Eldritch Challenge, which is refresh skills 50 times in a run with Nexal Staff. I did this literally in A1, so it's an extremely easy challenge. You should be able to do it very fast with the right builds. Radiant Nexal Staff challenge, complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Nexal Staff. Now, Maelstrom challenge, deal 100 damage in one hit with a skill with the Nexal Staff. So this one might be pretty hard, but the way to do it would be by taking Blast Bomb, which has a base damage of 70 when you perfect it, and then just scale your skill damage just a little bit, like up to like 150%, and it's easy. Umbral Nexal Staff challenge, defeat 1,000 enemies using skills with the Nexal Staff. Once again, play enough, you'll get this one done. The Nexal Staff Mastery, complete all Nexal Staff challenges. Really easy once again. Rift Hammer, Amplified Rift Hammer challenge, unlock all weapon mods for the Rift Hammer. Then there's Tenderizing challenge, which is stun 6 enemies in one charge attack with the Rift Hammer, which that one was kind of hard, but not too difficult. Then there's the Radiant Rift Hammer challenge, complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Rift Hammer. Crystallize challenge, defeat 50 enemies with overcharge in a single run with the Rift Hammer. Now you can do this one in endless, or you can do it in one run. You just have to actually focus on overcharging the hammer and dealing damage with it. Pretty easy if you do focus on that, otherwise it can take a while. Umbral Rift Hammer challenge, stun 2,000 enemies with the Rift Hammer. Now this one is kind of weird because you have to stun 2,000 enemies, which is double the amount that you have to kill with other weapons, which is once again crazy, but still pretty easy if you focus on that challenge. Rift Hammer Mastery, complete all Rift Hammer challenges. Pretty easy, you just have to, once again, complete all the rest. Moving on to Razorwind. The Amplified Razorwind challenge, unlock all weapon mods for the Razorwind. Then the Zephyr challenge, damage an enemy with perfect charge attacks 500 times with the Razorwind. The Radiant challenge, complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Razorwind. Lawless challenge, defeat the Ice King with a total runtime of less than 10 minutes with the Razorwind. So what this Lawless challenge is, you have to beat A2 in under 10 minutes, or like up to, you have to beat up to A3, I guess, in under 10 minutes, which really isn't that hard if you, once again, focus on being fast. The Umbral Razorwind challenge, defeat 1,000 enemies using the charge attack with the Razorwind. Razorwind Mastery, once again, this is just complete all Razorwind challenges. On to the second to last weapon here, Reaper's Toll. Amplified Reaper's Toll challenge, unlock all weapon mods for the Reaper's Toll. Spectral challenge, gain a slash charge from using a skill 100 times with the Reaper's Toll. Radiant Reaper's Toll challenge, complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Reaper's Toll. The Thorough challenge, this one is probably one of the hardest challenges in all of the weapons, where you need to complete all 8 portals in Netherite without healing with the Reaper's Toll. Now, the Guardian Angel, if you proc that, does count as healing, so you cannot use that. Then there's the Umbral Reaper's Toll challenge, which defeat 1,000 slashed enemies with the Reaper's Toll. This one will take a long time to do, generally speaking, but once again, focus on it and you should be able to get it done. Then there's the Reaper's Toll Mastery, which, once again, complete all Reaper Toll challenges. Onto the last weapon, and the newest weapon, Amplified Void Mantle challenge. Unlock all weapon mods for the Void Mantle. The Illusionist challenge, cast 100 dark spells with the Void Mantle, which this one kind of takes a while. Then Radiant Void Mantle challenge, complete a run with 25 difficulty modifier levels active with the Void Mantle. Now that one was kind of hard, I'm not going to lie. You have to do some sort of scaling build because the weapon is very slow. The Enigma challenge, this one is definitely the hardest challenge in all of the challenges, defeating all variant bosses with the Void Mantle. I mean, it's not necessarily hard, it just takes a lot of runs to complete. Umbral Void Mantle challenge, defeat 1,000 enemies using dark spells with the Void Mantle. That one's also kind of annoying and takes a lot of time, mainly because, once again, dark spells you can't constantly be using. Then there's the Void Mantle Mastery, complete all Void Mantle challenges. And the difficulty modifiers that I would use If I were to do a Doom 25 run, this is just general. So generally speaking, I would use 4 haste, 4 onslaught, 4 horde, 1 malice, 1 pantheon, 1 doused, 1 sealed, and 5 blitz. Now, these are the best for the majority of the weapons, but some weapons you can't do this on. Like if you're using staff, you should not use sealed. So then you should probably use something like throw Tyrant 3 on or something. You just need to get back up to that 25 difficulty modifiers. And yeah, there's other weapons too that it doesn't really work on. So like 5 Blitz doesn't really work that great on the Void Mantle since it's just generally really slow and doesn't have any way of healing. So instead of using 5 Blitz with the Void Mantle, use like, I don't know, maybe some Tyrant or some other modifiers. I don't know, but this is what I would choose if I was using like sword, bow, hammer, Razorwind, or Reaper's Toll. So generally speaking, these are the best mods. Now onto the weapon mod balancing. There's no Nexal Staff balancing, which is kind of weird because I kind of thought they were going to adjust some things considering the Nexal Staff is pretty broken. But moving on. So Emberblade, they increase the damage, increase the pushback, and increase the stun, and also increase the speed of the attack for Whirlwinds, which is, once again, the Emberblade mod. And then the ultimate mod for Emberblade, they also decrease the thrust distance, slightly decrease the thrust speed, but then they increase the speed of the attack. Overall, they just kind of adjusted some things slightly. Moving on to the Guardian Bow, they made Perfectionist actually pretty good. They increased the damage, they increased the damage multiplier, they added stun to it, and they decreased the pushback on the skill shot, but realistically the pushback doesn't really matter. And then they also increased the attack rates of Invigorate. It used to be 15%, but now it's 20%, so 5% increase, that's pretty good. Moving on to Rift Hammer. They adjusted Combat Slam, so they increased the damage multiplier, increased the distance of leap, and that's kind of all they did to that, which I don't really notice a difference. On Volcanic Rift, they updated to deal increased damage on the first attack. So the first hit with the third charge attack does increased damage, and it is actually a lot of damage, so very nice. I'm glad they did that. Overcharge, they decreased the time to use, which now it's only like half a second or something for your attacks to become overcharged, which is kind of ridiculous for that 75% increased damage. So overall, the Rift Hammer is really strong right now. Razorwind, they adjusted Hefty, so they increased the damage radius, increased the AoE damage, and increased the stun value. I haven't used Hefty in a really long time because it's super underwhelming, but I might have to give it a shot again. Reaper's Toll. They adjusted the ghost modifiers for it, so Summoner and Phantasm. They increased the ghost damage multiplier on both of them. It used to be 50% of your physical damage or your blue damage, but now it's 100%. Still worse than Urn of Vengeance, but pretty good now. Might be worth taking over some of the other ones, depending on, obviously, what build you're going. And then there's a bunch of miscellaneous changes. I'm not going to go over all of these, but I will link this slides down in the description. So I'll just quickly go over some of the main ones that I think are very beneficial. So they reworked Overlord Mac by increasing the attack cooldowns for the bouncing projectile, charge spike, and energy blast attacks to help reduce the number of projectiles visible at any given time, and removed the laser drones from spawning during its first phase, and improved its attack indicators. So overall, that's probably one of the best things they did. Oh, another thing is they updated the boss drops from 2 small stat gems to 1 large stat gem, and mini boss drops from 1 large stat gem to 2 small stat gems. Basically just swaps the rewards from bosses and mini bosses. Now, in this section, there isn't really any major things other than, I guess, they updated Pristine Band, Flawless Brace, Absolute Ambition to reward each player when perfectly clearing a room. So what it used to be is if let's say you're playing a co-op with one other person, so total of 2 people. You have pristine bands, and your teammates or co-op player gets hit, so then you don't even gain the benefits of pristine band. But then if you both do perfect the room, you used to only get the benefits, but now it's like co-op wide. So if you guys do perfectly complete a room, you both gain the benefit, and each person can also have the pristine band, flawless brace, absolute ambition. So absolute ambition and pristine band give the benefit to both people or to everybody in the lobby, and each person can have the relic as well. So you can be gaining like way more health per perfect room with pristine band than you used to be able to. And then they update Bulb's containment field's functionality as well to include a cooldown. So now it's first skill use in a room, and every 30 seconds you can use it or proc it. And then there's some other things, like they update the Ember Tree Perfectionist to also include mini bosses. Update Ember Tree upgrade super reroll to reset at the start of each world. So super reroll is actually pretty good now. It has, you gain 1 super reroll per world, which is just, once again, ridiculous. But you do lose that extra bonus relic at the start, or whatever the other slot is, which I think is Altumbera, which right now isn't in a great spot. But overall, these are the major changes that are coming in, or not coming, that are here and have been here for a while in version 1.3. Now, my favorite ones by far were the curses. 100% the curses. The curses are amazing, and I love them. The only downside and only thing I have against the curses is the fact that they're locked behind Area 3. But overall, I love curses. They make the game much more enjoyable and very exciting. Now, I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope this helps you at least. I know it's very late, but hopefully you learned something, or maybe you figured out something that you might not have already known. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it, or at least if you've gotten this far, please leave a like on it. And if you want to see more content either like this, or just any playthrough of Ember Knights that I will upload in the future, just subscribe to the channel so you never miss another video from me. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, throw them in the comments. I read every single comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And that's all I got for you. So I'll catch you guys in the next one.